What did you learn, guys, from yesterday call with Bruce?
Well, most of it, how to run the comms, and see if there's a house that's overpriced, as like mine, my lead, from the one that's a teacher. It's very overpriced, and we have to learn how to make them put their feet in the earth, to have a real number on mine.
How would you do that without creating friction?
Maybe asking them about their properties and telling them I'm looking at the pictures. And what can you tell me? There's any update, that have you recently made to the kitchen? And if maybe in the kitchen, on in the pictures, they look like they're very old. Maybe I can ask them, are these pictures updated? And if they say yes, um, we can see that the house is not updated as 100%. So,
Let's say I'm a seller
mhm.
and I'm telling you that I want 300,000 for the property. You go online, you see that the house estimate says 200 instead of 3. And also, you don't see pictures. Probably you see some pictures like yesterday and the house looks old. What would you say to me? Put it into a sentence, because I want to hear how you will formulate that sentence. Because here's the thing. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. I can't tell someone the house looks crappy without telling him the house looks crappy. Because bottom line, keep in mind that it's your job to be professional. So I want you to try. Like, trying is how we learn. And there's no wrong answer, or here, when you guys are with me, there's not a wrong answer. If you're wrong, I correct you so you can be right next time.
Yeah.
How would you say, Emma?
There's no picture on the internet, right?
All pictures.
Okay, maybe I could ask, hey, are these pictures that I'm looking on Zillow are recently updated, or there's any update of the house? When do you take these photos?
Okay, rephrase it. Try again.
I'm looking here on Zillow, and what can you tell me about the kitchen?
Rephrase it another one.
I can see here on the pictures that these walls have, ¿cómo se dice? Papel,
Wallpaper.
bueno, has wallpapers. Are they looking the same?
Okay, let's pause there. Carlos, how would you say it? Rephrase it. This exercise that we're doing before we continue, this exercise stimulates your brain to think differently. Because if you stick to the same that everybody's saying, you're just gonna sound average. I don't want you guys to sound average. I don't want you guys to be sending crappy leads. Not saying that you are, but when you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So it's like esos caballos cocheros that they cannot see around because their eyes are covered.
Yeah.
So
what I will say will be like, well, I was looking at some photos at the web. It seems like this house needs some renovations. What could you tell me about the kitchen?
rephrase it.
Yeah, I was looking at some photos. I would like to know more about the kitchen because I can see a good picture about it.
Rephrase it.
Yeah, I was looking at these photos that I get from my partners. It looks that needs some renovation. This house. What could you tell me about it?
Now it's my turn. I'm looking at some pictures online. Would you say that the condition is the same? Is everything original, or you've done some improvements? You need to try, Carlos. This is for you. You go too much around.
Yeah.
Andrea. Wow, I just had a deja vu, bro. Oh, oh shit. It's not good or bad. Just got a deja vu. Carlos, as we speak, I'm looking at some pictures online trying to understand a little bit better the house condition. Would you say the house has been remodeled, or have you done any improvements in the property since you bought it? Another one. I'm looking at some pictures here online. I don't see much. Would you tell me about any improvements you've done in the last 5 years? Another one. So, as we speak, I'm trying to understand better what is going on in the market. What would you say is a highlight in your property? Another one. Instead of what's the house condition, what highlights can you tell me about the property's condition? The most important and real and relevant. For us, it's very important. Another one. For us, it's very important to understand the house condition because we appreciate properties just the same way that lenders do, since we work with them. So, what can you tell me that would be relevant for a lender if I was one? Another one. I'd like to understand a little bit more about the house condition. It's very sad that online I don't see anything happening. Can you tell me a little bit more about the inside, outside, as if I was there doing a walkthrough? You see the difference? You need to be
Yeah.
able to have a conversation. Like, I cannot make a conversation with someone when I only have 3 lines, 3 sentences. Like, every person is different. If you treat everybody the same way, guess what? You're not gonna be successful because every human being is different. Andrea is different. Carlos is different. Elle is different. For instance, someone more intellectual don't like average questions. Someone more intellectual, and you will find a lot of sellers that are very intellectual. They don't give a shit about your accent. They give a shit about your brain. So you sound like you know what you're talking about, or you don't sound like what you know what you're talking about. Can you really ask questions that are meaningful? That's what we need to improve. Make sense? So
Yeah.
I want to be training not only you, like a couple of the team members. I'll have to talk to people and come properties on the phone because I found that you don't understanding the numbers leads you to believe that something is a deal and it's not. And also, it's gonna help you identify where opportunities are. Okay? So I'm gonna share a screen. This is a paid mentorship that I'm part of. We're gonna watch the. You know what? I like you to hear this, the key closers first before we start looking at numbers. We're gonna be doing a couple of trainings on comping. This is for closers, for acquisitions, but it's not gonna hurt that you guys actually know how the closers talk. Because if we get to frame sellers good on the first call, it's gonna be easier for the second and the third call to get a deal. Because now I don't have to dig so deep. Because now I don't have to talk an hour, maybe 30 minutes. Because now I don't have to chase this seller. Is it a bullshit seller or is it right? So, let's see. I believe this is different, bro. Let's look at the company training. I don't want to confuse you. I still need to watch other stuff first. Just two of us. Let me know if you cannot hear, okay?
Yep.
Okay, so this video is about the comping philosophies and the guardrails that you want to adhere to. These are your basic comp rules to get you comping like that appraiser and underwriter is going to underwrite for a loan for your property. Again, this is going into making sure that you are choosing the comp properties that are going to be utilized on an appraisal, a BPO for that exit strategy. So it could be as is comps, it could be comps for a rental or rent value, and it could be comps for an after repair value or remodeled value. So we're going to dive right in. We're going to get to showing you exactly what those comp rules are and how they're applied. So these are our basic comp rules here. You want to start out with what I say is a broad scope of view. You don't want to force a comp, but you also want to understand that that appraiser is going to have at least 3, and more than likely, if 6 are available, they will have 6 comp properties. I've seen even more than 6. I've seen 9. But understanding that they are aiming to have 6 comparable properties on an appraisal. And what do those adjustments look like on an appraisal? I highly recommend reviewing appraisals if you can get your hands on them. This helps understand how these rules are applied and what that means. So when you're searching for your comps, I like to start out and you're looking for like and kind by distance. So one of the first things that I do is I arrange the comps that show up in my filters by distance if they're not already arranged that way, because you're looking for like and kind by distance to the property. So this is why you want to try to keep it within that same subdivision. You don't want to be comping a property 2 miles away, because that is not what an appraiser is going to choose over the comp that's in the same exact neighborhood as your subject property. You want to try not to cross over major roads if you can't. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to see if you're getting into a higher value neighborhood or you're doing one of those things that the data shows you that you're not going to end up having those comps on the appraisal over the ones that are closer in distance range to your subject property. So if you choose those comps, just know that that's not going to be what an appraiser is going to choose over your subject property. And so I see people making those mistakes quite a bit. You obviously can filter it out if you don't have any right in your direct neighborhood. That's when you start broadening the distance. So I typically am going to start within half of a mile, and sometimes I'll get it even closer. And I will just look at the neighborhood if there's available comps just directly in the neighborhood. You also want to try to keep the same style of house if you can. Not a lot of these are going to be cookie cutter neighborhoods where they're just all the same kind of style of house, the same amount of stories, but you want to start by looking for those comps before you start choosing something that is less like your property. So it's like and kind, and that is what that means. You want to select the most alike property to your subject property when possible. What you're going to be looking for is potentially as-is comps. That means like if your house just needs updating, you know, it's a 1980 build and your comps are also 1980s builds and they haven't been updated, that's your as-is comp, right? If you're looking for a remodeled or updated comp, that's the comp that you want to be looking for. So there's going to be a clear price difference between the two. Sometimes it's harder to find an as-is comp. That maybe if your subject property has maybe a lot of issues. And then sometimes it's harder to find comps that have been completely flipped and remodeled over the top. And you want to be careful with those properties, because I see people run into that where they're like, well, there's no flipped properties. And, you know, all of the properties that I could find for comps in this neighborhood had at least 10-year-old, you know, cosmetics in them. So that's why I went out of the neighborhood to choose a more recent, updated, you know, HGTV worthy comp. And you have to be careful of those things, because you're not necessarily wanting to go outside of the neighborhood to find higher values, because that will not potentially end up on the appraisal. What you're going to want to be looking for is the most updated in your direct neighborhood, because that's not an adjustment on an appraisal for having a better look. Those things tend to have more impact on days on market. And you don't want to be over remodeling or overpricing for the neighborhood, or aiming, if you're a fix and flip buyer, aiming for the most highly priced listing that's ever sold in the neighborhood. That's how you can kind of lose profits as the buyer. And you can over remodel something for the neighborhood. So for example, if you have like a mid-level flip property, are you going to go looking for, you know, materials such as marble? Probably not, you know? So when you're looking for that, that helps you determine your rehab numbers as well. You are going to end up, you know, wanting to be more conservative on those properties, because that's what your buyers are going to be looking for. That's what I mean by blueprint property. How can I turn my property into this marketable property? And how much does that cost for a rehab? You want to try to keep the build years as close as possible. And one of the things that you need to look out for in this general rule, these are all general rules of thumb, the newer the property, the more important that is. And I say that because you can have like a 1915 build, and usually in those neighborhoods in most places in the country, you're going to end up with it not being that different. And you can comp 1940s builds and 50s builds, you know. So the 1950s and before those are less important. And I try to keep, you know, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s is when you start to look at that more. But really 60s and 70s, you know, you could kind of group those together. 80s and 90s, you can kind of group those together. And then certainly you can't comp a 2000 build to a 2023 build. So you just have to be mindful. And a lot of people also make this mistake when they're in a neighborhood that has new builds all around it. They're not paying attention to those build years. So you have to be mindful, and you do want to keep them, you know, taking your subject property's build year and making sure, again, that those styles of the home are the same if it's an older property, and you'll recognize that they all kind of, your comps kind of reveal themselves. They do adjust for that on an appraisal, which we'll get to in the next slide. There's other things that they adjust for on an appraisal, but it's not going to make as stark of a difference if you comp right from the beginning. These comps tend to start to reveal themselves. And usually when people start to run into issues with this, it's smaller towns, and you know, they're trying to follow these guidelines, and these are rules of thumb. These are guardrails, they're guidelines, and this is kind of the order of priority. You want to start looking for your comps as you're trying to get them to reveal themselves, right? So we'll go on to the next slide, which is adjustments. And you have to understand on an appraisal, you get adjustments. And one of those first adjustments that people kind of lean to is the price per square foot adjustment. So just taking for an example, and I'll go ahead and pull it up so you guys can understand a visual of what I'm saying. So if you have $100,000 property and it's 1,200 square feet, and excuse me, if you have a 1,000 square foot property and you have three 1,200 square foot properties, you can't find another 1,000 square foot property. We'll keep round numbers, and those are all comping for $100,000. You know, you want to make sure that you don't put your ARV or have the expectation that your 1,000 square foot property is going to sell for $100,000. So if you divide that by the average square footage, which we said was 1,200, you end up with $83 as a price per square foot for your comp properties. And so what you would want to do is you want to multiply that by the difference, which is 200 square feet. And then you have $16,666 dollar difference. So you would take that $100,000 and you would subtract that amount. And that's the adjustment that's going to be made on an appraisal for the price per square foot. So you have to understand that this is an adjustment on an appraisal. And a lot of people make that mistake where they say, well, I couldn't find properties there, or they take this price per square foot rule and they use it to justify a higher price for their, for their subject property. And where you usually run into trouble with that is when you have what we like to call big man on the block. Big man on the block means that, you are going to have a larger house, say a 3,000 square foot house, and all of your comps are 2,100 to 2,300 because somebody added square footage, and then they determine that the average price per square foot for their comps is 125, per square foot. And then they want to say that, 125 per square foot and my house is 3,000 square feet. So that means my house is worth this. And this is where people start to get in trouble with what we say is big man on the block, because that's not necessarily the way it works. When you have a smaller square foot property, your price per square foot tends to go up. And so you have to determine, what the value is going to be adjusted for on the appraisal. And it's not going to necessarily be for that price per square foot price, especially if it's additions and maybe those are not, the same style of that house. So that price per square foot adjustment, understanding what it means is vital to getting to the right number for your, ARV or as is comp. Another big thing on adjustments that people kind of end up looking at those guardrails wrong for is that they think because you have a 2-1 or a 2-2, you have to go outside of the neighborhood to find a 3-2 because that's what you want to turn your subject property into, or that's how many bedrooms and bathrooms it has. And rather than understanding that an appraiser is going to make adjustments for bedroom and bathroom count, versus going 2 miles away to find another 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, or whatever that means. So they're going to make the adjustments for bedrooms and bathrooms before they're going to really go further away or comp outside of the neighborhood. They make adjustments for pools. And another thing where people make a lot of mistakes is, say you have a house and your subject property, they converted the garage into an additional bedroom, but you're just not going to have the same style of home. You may not have the same style of bedroom and bathroom as the rest of the home. You want to be looking for comps that also don't have garages or converted garages. And if you can't find them, you need to understand that they're going to adjust that on an appraisal. These are very market specific, and it can vary the amount of, adjustment, and that tends to be clear Usually I don't end up having to really go to adjusting too much, comping nationwide. It's just kind of a little bit natural for me to understand when I'm comping and I have a unique situation in my property. A lot of times, I'm going to give a little bit of wiggle room, or in the circumstance as a buyer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert that garage back more than likely. People think that livable square footage is a better situation than having a garage, and a lot of times it's not necessarily, or it might be better to turn that back into a garage, just depending on how far they took it, or add some covered parking. And that's really market specific. Here in Texas, that is important because of hailstorms. Places where there's winter, they don't want snow on their windshields every morning, like where there's snow, things like that. So you have to kind of use the logic and look for the comps that will match your property the most that you're looking for. The other thing where people kind of struggle with, and why this is a part of our comp rules, is that you come from a market like Texas and then you go to a market in the Midwest that has basements, and they don't understand that you need to pay attention when you're comping. If your comps all have finished basements, but your subject property does not have a finished basement, you have to include for that in the rehab amount if you're going to include that as your ARV. Or maybe your property does not have a basement and you're comping it with properties that do have a basement, or maybe you have a finished basement and your comps don't. People tend to want to add the price per square foot, the livable square footage of upstairs, to the value of their property when they have a finished out basement, and that's just not how it's calculated. So the rule of thumb there, I say, is don't count that. Count it as 50% of the price per square foot, and then potentially add that, and then look for comps that support that. The same thing with converted attic spaces, and you'll see this a lot of times on, older homes where they had like a lot of walkable space in that attic not being utilized. People do want to add a value for the entire square footage. They want to add the price per square foot, but you realistically want to do that same item, but remember to consider that it's only walkable. So if you have a steep sloped roof, you're not counting floor square footage, you're counting ceiling square footage. Because, you may have, 500 square feet, 1,000 square feet, but you can only walk in 500 of it. They're not going to count that for additional living space where you cannot walk under it. So that's a big thing for people who are not used to comping like that. And especially when you can't find comps that support that square footage. But sometimes people will look at that and they'll go, well, this is a 3,000 square foot property, but it has 3 full floors. Well, your third floor used to be attic, and it's really only adding like 500 walkable square feet. So you have to be really mindful when you're comping those types of properties. Additions, you really want to pay attention to the floor plan. Does it have central heating and cooling going to it? Does it have a closet if it's being used as an additional bedroom and bathroom? Is it permitted? Does it look and flow like the rest of the original home? Before you really count that as same price per square foot, livable square footage, or you're looking for your comps to have a similar situation there, right? And again, that's for the same reason as the attics and the basements. The garage conversions, I kind of already went over, but just to touch on that again, if it's not the same as your comp, you have to be mindful that that might not add as much value as the original living square footage to the property if it feels out of sorts, out of character, like it is an addition. And sometimes people, forget to recognize that people turn back porches into additions and they turn.
Do you guys understand what she's talking about?
Pues sí,
Yep.
mayormente como ella está diciendo las cosas que se pueden tomar en cuenta.
¡Cámara!
La jefa.
Dale.
Mayormente las
Cuéntame.
cosas que se toman en cuenta y las que no, de que si tiene piscina, que si tiene garaje, lo que no se toma tanto en cuenta podría ser que el square footage por ahí, de que también toman en cuenta el roofing o no, y cosas así, qué cosas se pueden tomar en cuenta conforme al compo, cuánto se puede agregar en dado caso.
Ok, vamos a buscar unos ejemplos. Espérame. I changed computer, bro. Y yo me siento como que me arrancaron un brazo. Like, a computer can become an extension of you. Vamos a buscar.
La verdad que lo que digo es bastante importante, o sea, en el aspecto de que hay algunas personas que tal vez toman en cuenta lo que es el square feet, pero
Warner Road es una área asquerosísima para hacer comms. Vamos a buscar una buena área. Virginia is good. Vamos a buscar un de aquí. Okay, yeah, so sometimes, that question about the square feet, it's really used to see if the seller has an idea of what is going on. 25, 08, read, 25, 08, read, circle, Norfolk. La escribe mal. So, vamos a hacer un análisis completo de esta propiedad. It's not always is easy. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. Some areas are a little bit tougher. But if you see that you have an opportunity to come to property, go for it, because this is going to help you to understand who you're talking to. Norfolk, so you know, Carlos, it's a metropolitan city.
Oh,
It's
I
quite
understand.
big, has a lot of population. So something else to understand, if the property is going to be a good deal, is look for the city. So in this case, Norfolk
Norfolk.
city population 2024. It's above 100,000. So when properties are below 100,000, deals are harder to sell. And it's weird because when the population is less, people is willing to sell. So that's why when we were doing Philadelphia, markets that are smaller, people is more willing to sell. But when we do Arizona, people is a little bit more resilient to sell because there's more activity, there's more work, there are places, more schools, more hospitals. So it's harder for them to let go of property in an area that there's more population than in a smaller area, which sellers on the smaller areas are paying for someone to take on their properties. So this is very good also to understand. It's always when I talk to a seller, I want to know what I'm talking to. So, okay. Looks like something that may be silly or small, but it's very important. So let's go see the home details of this property. I don't see pictures.
I think actually that's like, well, it's supposed that is in the same property, but it's like a lot.
This is a lot.
Yep. It's
Okay.
like a small garage. I don't know.
I'm gonna look for a property with a house. Let's pretend that this is our subject property. Because I want you, like, before we get into lots and all of that, I want you to understand houses. So this is a 4-bed, 3-bed, 2,000 square feet. See home details. So by reading home details, you can learn a lot about seller. Welcome to this charming brick ranch in Norfolk Spring. With for 2.5 baths. And look what it says, convert garage. What did she say about that?
Yeah.
What did she say about that, Andrea?
Que podría tomarse en cuenta. It can be taken on count about the offer. And a
But not
specific
like a room,
price.
but not like a complete room. So
And
it
a
also
specific
says,
price, 10K could be taken on there.
okay, it says this home boasts a spacious living area with hardwood floors. Some updates have been made in the kitchen. So this is a property that was sold in the market and is renovated. When it says has been made, it's like that, the renovator, okay? There's a convert garage for added space and convenience. This home is ready for a new owner to make it their own. This means that this property was sold as retail. It wasn't an investment property, but that's what it looks like, right? So when I come down, mental note for you, Carlos. 1951, okay?
Yeah.
Mental note. Let's see more facts. It was listed. Okay. Show more. This is the taxes. I want to see the story. The sale story. Price and tax story. It doesn't show me on the tax story. So let's go down. You see this? Find accessory info on county website. We're gonna go look for the story of the property. Vamos a ir a sacar. Let's go find the skeletons. Not taxes, property records. So it says that this is from the county. Estimated market value for beds, 2 baths. You see this?
Yeah.
An investor is not gonna believe what this says on the description. They may say 2.5 baths, but here the county, the fact says 2 baths. Some people would take it in consideration, some other not.
What's the difference with the 0.5?
Yeah.
I mean, they maybe added something to wash their hands, and it's not really like a big difference.
Okay.
On the 2020, they paid $2,000 in taxes. So taxes are around probably $200 more. Market value. Spokio. Okay. So I'm doing it slow because I'm with you. I want you guys to really see everything I'm doing. But once you're on the phone with the seller, click, 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 click. You got a mouse. On this computer, I'm super slow. Ni mi abuelo, tan lento como yo en esta computadora. Sí. Ok. Sé que estamos en... ¡Qué vaina! Vamos a volver a hacer, se me controló. Greenville. Ahí está. Voy a limpiar un poquito aquí. What's really important here is it's not the best, it's not the bath, it's the square footage and the year built. You are the dancing queen. Let's go 300 above and 300 below. Year built.
1951 creo que era.
Yeah. So we're gonna do 1950 and we're gonna do 1959. Some people do more, open up a little bit more, but to start, we're gonna go there. So here, I'm gonna do 6 months. Let's see what is going on here. Nuestra casa está aquí. So normally what I do is, all right, so let me pull up a little bit of information online to understand better what you're gonna be telling me about the house condition. What can you tell me about the house? And I start pulling up the information here online. And while they talk, I shut up. Make sense? So I see that in the last 6 months, only this property sold. Let's see. This is our property, our subject property. Let's see around. Okay, so that's the one who sold, that sold in the last 6 months. Now we're gonna see what sold in the last year. We're gonna ignore that one because it's a subject property. Let's say 12 months. See this? 350, 355, 180. So which one do you believe is closer to the property?
I think the 350, 355.
Actually, these three are a good comp. I'm gonna say that this property, the one that we're using as a subject, it wasn't a fix and flip. It didn't come from an investor. Probably it was just a homeowner who took care of his property and then he needed just to sell because it is modern, but it looks like someone was living there.
Sí, eso lo quiero decir, que se mira muy moderno.
Actually, this looks like a...
¿Me escuchó, verdad?
Sí.
Okay.
This looks like a brand new property. Yeah, look at this.
Yeah.
I believe this is a new construction. New roofing, new kitchen, new corner lot. New. This beautiful home, one corner lot, totally redone. Mira, totally redone. That means that it's not a construction, like a new construction. It was a normal property and it was completely turned down, remodeled from zero. It says all new roofing, windows, HVAC system, tankless hot water, new plumbing, new electrical, interior, all kitchen cabinets, granite. Oh my God, everything new. And it's the same square footage. It's a little bit bigger than that property. It's bigger than our property. And it's brand new. So what does it tell you?
Well, so 385 for a brand new property, and in the yeah, I think it could be, in that way. Probably the other properties, if they can redone, it will be in the same price.
So markets like Virginia are a little bit tricky. Sometimes from corner to corner, price market change. So this probably is not gonna be a good comp for us. Probably this is more like a comp for this property because this looks like it's another neighborhood. You see?
Yeah.
This is still close. So we know our property, our subject property, it wasn't brand new. But we know the house was in good condition. It was livable. So let's see this. 347, 48, 49. This was original. So we all know that on 2022, 23, markets was a little bit higher than now. This property needs some changes. This is old. I'm surprised it's sold for a high price. You see this one. This looks like our subject property.
Yeah.
Looks similar. Right now. This is a fix and flip.
Yeah.
You can tell someone invested a lot of money on this kitchen. Look at this. Look at this.
Just the kitchen.
I only see something. I just see something. This is style. It's different.
Like a marble thing.
Yeah, but this is style. But what I'm seeing is this is in good condition. Like someone put some love into this property. It was well staged. It's clean. It's shiny. Yeah, this was redone. It was sold in the market.
What happened when there is no photos in a property?
Probably was sold in as is conditions, which means an investor bought it. When it doesn't say listing buy, it means that someone else bought it for cash.
Got it.
This is a good comp for a property. Yeah, I would say it's 340 and a safe 340, 330. That would be our A or B. So let's say the seller is expecting to receive 250. I would say it's still a deal. Can be worked. Because anyways, they say a price, we say another one, and we start conversations based on this. Make sense?
Yep, makes sense.
Okay. Now, let's do a sample, Carlos. You're on the phone with this seller. This is the subject property. You see that probably 10 years ago or 10 years ago sold for 270. And you're doing comps and you see one in 350 and 355. And the seller is asking for 250.
Yep.
How would you react? Like, what would you do?
In the moment, probably, I think I will say something like, well, I will try to give you the best offer that I can, but I don't know if my underwriting team could approve this property because it seems like needs some renovation at the moment. And the asking price that you are mentioned, probably they could consider, something related with that, probably low. But I think it could be
wrong.
Yeah, it could be more.
You're wrong. That's not the way you're gonna address the seller. If the seller is asking you for 250 and you see properties are going for 270, in assessed condition, 350 market value, 355 market value, I will say, so I don't want you to say anything about the price.
Let's see.
That's just for you to know I have a diamond in my hands. I have a good lead in my hands. Make sense, Carlos? I don't want you to say my team is going to come back low because you're going to damage the lead. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
I want you to ask them, how do you come up with a price? Have you received any offers before? Have you spoken to another investor like myself?
Or if they...
Is it the first time you have considered realistically selling this property? So if I know that you're already discounted, I'm not going to say anything about price. I want to know how they come up with that number. I want to know if my competition made any comments. What type of offers you received before? Is it the first time you try to sell your property to an investor like myself, like my team?
Or
shut up.
Have you received an appraisal?
I don't want you to say, don't mention appraisal.
Oh, okay.
There are some words that you want to ban out of your dialogue.
Okay.
Market price, low price, high price, deal, contract, evaluations. Why? Because those words trigger sellers to feel curious about how much they can get in the market.
Yeah.
You don't want to create friction. You're here just to have conversations. And this that I'm teaching you guys is for yourself. This is a tool for you to know what the situation is in the area. Do you see anything selling around that price? Around what price houses are going for? This is a different market. We're not going to take that in consideration. We have 1, 2, 3 here. A triangle. What does it say? So if the seller wants 250 and the house is in good condition, probably our team will give him 250. Sometimes we don't have to negotiate a lot. Sometimes when people is in the right mindset and they are in the money, there's no reason for us to try to beat them down. But if the house needs a lot of repairs, we already know, like decent conditions, 270. Great conditions, 250, 355. So this tells you, is it warm? Is it hot? Is it cold? Yeah. Imagine a seller asking for 450,000. Do you believe that seller is in the money or out of the money?
With those comps? Out of it, totally.
So what type of questions would you ask a seller if you pull up the comps and you see that?
What brings you to the number?
You know, that's a very specific number. It's a very specific number. How do you come up with the price? And just let them talk. Well, you know, I consider based on the market. Really? Have you seen any property selling for that much? And if he said, yeah, I think so, can you tell me the address of the property that sold for that price? Because I'm looking online, I don't see anything like that happening. But if you have an address, probably it's not updated online. I like to check it out because my team, you know, is gonna compare everything that is selling in the market. If you can help me out with that. So sometimes you're gonna get people bullshitting you.
Yeah.
Saying I saw a property selling for that much and it really didn't sell. So instead of me attacking him, I want him to help me. You know, Mr. Seller, if you can help me giving me the address of that property, it's gonna be a huge help when putting together the offer. I'm looking online, I haven't seen anything selling in the last 12 months for that price. So that's gonna tell the seller what? I know you're lying, but I'm not gonna go say, oh, Mr. Seller, you're wrong. You don't ever argue with a seller. You need to learn how to bring value so you can entertain a conversation. Even if they get upset about it. Mr. Seller, I'm just trying to understand a little bit more here, but no worries. We're gonna do our best to do a deeper research. So and just continue qualifying the conversation. And leave this at last. Once you start comping properties, it's when you're already past the motivation. You pull this up to receive the condition of the property. You don't talk price until you go into the price side.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What are the notes? What are the notes do on the call, Andrea? What you should not ever do on a call.
Talking about a number in a specific, saying the word contract, saying the word, there's another word, and
Deal.
yeah, deal.
Deal sounds like when someone is trying to rape you off. Rape you off, like you're going to a store, I'm gonna give you a good deal. Every time someone says, I'm gonna give you a good deal, you feel like you have the feeling in your chest, you're gonna raise the price, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
So people has bad memories about those words. That's why if you want to sound smooth on the conversations, avoid those words, okay?
Okay.
So we're gonna do a sample. I'm gonna be the one on the phones with you, Andrea. So Andrea, what can you tell me about the house condition? Let me pull up the information online right quick. Well, go ahead, tell me about the house condition as we go.
Well, the house has been recently remodeled. The kitchen, the roof has been replaced about 2 years ago. Still, um, the AC is central. I replaced at the same time as the roof. The plumbing, I had some issues, so I had to replace the flooring and the plumbing like 3 years ago too. And this year exactly, I repaint and take everything from the kitchen and the living room actually to be remodeled.
Okay. So the cabinets are original or there was a change?
Actually, that's the only thing I left in the kitchen because I thought it looks good too.
Okay, so brown color cabinets, right?
Yes.
Okay. What about the rooms, the seating, like anything in specifics, any highlights you can tell me?
Well, maybe that the carpet, I didn't replace it, just the flooring itself. Maybe that's the only thing, or the walls inside of some rooms.
What parts of the house have you kept original from when you bought it?
The main bathroom, the main room, and I believe some of the other rooms.
Okay. All right, Andrea. Give me a minute. I'm trying to see what is going on in the market around with the past sales. So you mentioned that you're trying to go back to California, right?
Yes, with my family.
Okay. Do you have a job expecting you over there?
Actually, no. My husband wants to relocate. He can't stand the neighbors anymore. They're looking for beef, and he's like a dynamite, you know.
Oh wow, what's the matter with those neighbors?
The people from the hood. Not his type of people.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's better to avoid,
Yeah.
Okay. So how soon ideally would you guys to be out of this place?
Well, I love to be out of this as soon as possible. How long does it takes to be done all of this?
Normally 30, 45 days. It really depends on the title companies we're gonna be using, and if there's anything that we need to address with you, probably it's gonna cloud title. But do you remember when you bought the property? Basically, it's gonna be the same, but this time we are the buyers.
Okay,
All
got you.
right. So, okay. So pretty much I have some information here. Anything else you'd like to add about the house, financing, any mortgage?
No, there's no mortgage. We recently paid all of it. And I have a price in mind.
You know, you sound pretty young. Like, how old are you and your husband?
I'm 25 and he's 26.
Wow, you guys are really young. You made
Yeah.
it. You made it on point. Are you guys
Yes.
sweetheart college? Something like that?
Yes. No, actually, high school sweethearts.
Oh my god, that's so beautiful. That
Yes.
reminds me of my ex-husband.
What happened?
Oh, not much to tell. Boring story. Mm. So that's not gonna affect you though if you move to California with your job, or you're gonna be able to continue your job remotely.
Actually, I quit from my job recently, and I found a job at the same time. My husband told me that he was relocating from the job.
So you're still are gonna have to apply for a new job in California.
Actually, I did. So
Okay, so basically you have a job waiting for you.
exactly.
What about housing? Is that gonna be an inconvenience where you have a place where to go crash?
Yes, I have a house that my mom left for me
Okay.
when she passed.
Mm, okay. So what you guys are waiting for before you move? You already have a place. Are you waiting to sell for this property, or you wanna relocate before you sell the property?
Actually, we're just waiting for the money so we can relocate and buy new stuff to the house because we're leaving all of the things. We're just leaving the house as is. We're just
Mhm.
taking our stuff and leaving.
Okay. Andrea, so you guys are gonna need some cash to move. Have you done the math? How much it's gonna cost you to move, send your stuff, all of that?
Yes, actually, I did. I spent 3 days looking for a lower price because all of it's really high. So I'm expecting the money so we can go and not go in with
Okay.
empty hands, you know.
Would you say like 10K to relocate?
More like 30.
Gotcha. Mm, okay. I'm gonna talk to my partner about this. Let's see what we can do for you. So
Okay.
if we come to an offer that actually makes sense, to how soon you and your husband can make a decision about this?
Actually, we have make the decision. I'm the decision maker. He gave me the permission to do this too, because we had an agreement when we get married. But I'm the only decision maker.
Okay. So, but any decisions you still needs to discuss with him.
It's already discussed.
Okay, okay. I just want to clarify, sometimes we don't want to feel like we're leaving someone outside. Anyways, we're gonna need them to still sign together. Okay. So pretty much see it. I'm gonna have someone from my team reach out to you. Probably he or she is gonna be asking for some pictures. How soon can you send us some pictures to evaluate the full condition of the property? I don't hear you.
Aren't you the one who's calling me the next time?
Yeah, probably me or one of my partners in the office, because sometimes I gotta take care of the clients that are on closing. But either way, one of our team members is gonna reach out. But if you can
Okay.
text me some pictures, that's gonna help us evaluate better the house condition. I know that this is an important matter for you guys. Like you say, you have made a decision. You live in, you have a new job. Like, we can make this a priority, but we need your help. One of the helps we need from you is send us pictures or a video to this phone number so we can get going, give you an offers in the next 24 hours and take it from there.
Don't you have an email so I can send it? Because I don't like sending things through phone numbers.
Of course, 123 in Main Street.
Okay, you got it.
Okay, so I'm gonna send you a text from the phone number that normally we use to follow up with sellers. That way you can save our phone number. My name is Ellie, and just to confirm, your name is Andrea, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, this is your personal phone number or is the landline?
It's my personal phone number.
Perfect. So we're gonna be reaching out to you. Oof. Well, let me see what I can do for you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, ahí yo estaba practicando de condition para abajo. That's how I
Pero de
do
todas
it.
formas le sacó motivación.
Exactly. And I was repeating the question because I wanted you to repeat it. I wanted you to hear yourself saying it. I made a decision. Sometimes that's all it takes. I don't have to convince you because you have either made a decision or not. You saw the sample, Carlos? Do you understand everything I did on that call?
Yep.
We're gonna keep it there.